Welcome to the PewterCast. This is the InstantCast live call-in show for Week 17, Game 16 of the 2016 Tampa Bay Buccaneers football season. How you guys doing out there, Bucs fans? You doing pretty good? I'm doing pretty good. Hey, it's always a good show coming off of a win, isn't it? Always a good show coming off of a win. Today, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, our beloved Bucs, went home. We were at Raymond James Stadium. Our division rivals, the Carolina Panthers, the winners of the NFC South for the last 3 years, came into our house. This was our second game, obviously, that we were playing them this year as the final thing. You know, we play them twice. Went up to their house on a Monday Night Football and beat them just barely beat them off the foot of Roberto Aguayo. And we came home, finished out the season in what they even said on the television was really a meaningless game because neither team was going to the playoffs this year. I wholeheartedly disagree. This was not a meaningless game. This game had a lot of meaning to it. There was a lot on the line for this team. There was a lot of pride. There's a lot of momentum on the line for this team. And so by that alone, I don't think that this was a meaningless game by any stretch of the imagination. It was a 1-point victory, as somebody in the chat room says. I want to give a big shout out to everybody who is over in the chat room right now. A lot of familiar names over there. Got a couple new ones as well, and looks like we have a couple people that have not signed in. They're just listening. So welcome to everybody who is listening live, guys. These InstantCast shows, whenever they're broadcast, it's on mixlr.com/thepewtercast. And if you're on Mixlr and you're searching, I just found out today you can't put a space between the and Pewtercast. It won't come up in the search bar. I'm not really sure what the deal is with Mixlr, but I'll see if I can't fix that to make that something. But if you just put it in the Pewtercast, no space, it'll pop up on their search bar, or just type it in mixlr.com/thepewtercast, and you'll go straight to our page. You can listen live. Do you know you can also call in? Because that's what this is. This is a call-in show. The number 864-729-BUCKS, 864-729-BUCKS. I'm going to open up the phone line here in just one moment. I only have one phone line. I usually say open up the phone lines. It's not lines, it's line. There's only one. So if somebody else is on the line, just hang out. Just, if you try to call in, I'll cancel out your call. Just hang out. Call me back in a few minutes when the line clears, and you can do that. Please keep in mind, this is a PG-13 show. Please don't call in here and just rail off with all sorts of expletive-laden stuff. Come in and speak your mind. That's absolutely fine. That's encouraged. That's what we do. This is the InstantCast Show. That's what this show is all about. We're coming off a game. These are kind of our immediate reactions. Now, for me, for the integrity of this show, I have not listened to any of the press conferences or any of the locker room interviews or anything like that. I've not listened to those yet. So I don't know what they've been saying. We're just a couple hours off the game, off the end of the game. Game ended, about 4:30 or so, I guess. And it's about 10 o'clock my time here. I'll apologize if I sound like I'm out of breath. It's because I'm trying to both breathe and talk out of the same orifice today. My nose is retardedly stuffed up. So, so if you hear a little sniffles, that's what's going on. But I will try to do that. But hey, listen, you want to call into the show. You've got something that you want to try to talk intelligently about with the Buccaneers. Could be about today's game. Could be about anything really having to do with the Buccaneers, especially now that we're here at the end of the season. I hate to say it. I'm a little sad to say it, but it is true. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers season is officially over. But that means that we've got a whole bunch of stuff we now get to talk about. This opens up a whole new, because we can start looking at free agencies. We start looking at the draft. We start looking at who's out there. We start looking at coaching situations, because that certainly is going to come up. We start talking about, we can look back at the storylines of this entire season. Now is the time to do that. Now is the time. So those are all things. So you guys want to talk about it, and listen, here's how it works. You call in. You pick the topic. We talk about what you want to talk about. Now, I've got a list of things here that I'd like to talk about throughout the course of the show, but I'll jump around. You call in, you pick one of my topics. That's great. I won't even tell you it was one of my topics. You call in, you pick your own topic. We'll go with that topic because that's how we'll do it. So I think that's going to be it. Oh, yes, one more thing before I open up the phone line. I want to say I want to say I'm sorry to anyone who might have been disappointed by no show at all last week. Really tried to get one out. I knew going in we wouldn't be doing the instant cast last week because it was Christmas Eve. And I have family. I have small children. And my wife and I were up until 3 o'clock in the morning. How do I say this? Waiting on Santa because Santa had some wrapping he still had to do. So we were let's just say that we were waiting on Santa. 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to, make sure that everything was set so that Santa could walk in. He was a little late coming into the house. And turns out there was a bug that just hit this house. I don't know. Every single person in this house, some point over this past week, has started on antibiotics. And I kept trying to put out a show last week, trying to get to a main show. Actually, I even have it written. Like I'm staring at the script for it right now. It's written. I was just never able to get in to record it. So they're saying in the chat room, I was sad, but totally understand. Yeah, I appreciate that. I knew you guys would. So my apologies to anyone who was expecting that or disappointed by that. I really wanted to put it out there. Maybe I'll actually get to go record it just for sake of and have that out there. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know. Maybe not. We'll find out. But you know what? This is a new week. The Instant Cast is here. We've got a new show, a new main episode that's going to be coming up later this week. But for right now, this is the InstantCast Show. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's open up the phone lines. 864-729-BUCS. That's 864-729-2827. You call in. You pick the topic. This is your show, Bucs fans. Your show. So what are we going to talk about today? All right. I think let's just start with this game. Okay, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on in Buccaneer world. So let me go ahead and talk about this game, get this out of the way. Any of you guys want to call in, and we'll change the topic. That's okay. But until then, let's talk about this game. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won, which was nice. Was really, really nice. You know what it means? It means we are not going to be the cellar dwellers in this year's division road, or this division. I don't know what you call it. Division seating, division standings. That's probably it, right? The division standings. We're not the basement people anymore, right? I think we're actually number 2, which is better than being number 4. Better than being number 4. Number 2. So that's pretty cool. We finished the season 9-7 after today's win of 17-16. Oh my word. Oh my word. And here's the thing. I get that, we'll go all the way to the end of the game. The Panthers go in. I don't know how many opportunities we gave the Panthers at the end of the game to get a freaking touchdown. What did we give them? 22 chances to get a touchdown there in the fourth quarter, and they finally got it. They put them in there, and then they go for a 2-point conversion. Now, I get it. A 2-point conversion ends the game. Kicking the extra point would send us into overtime. Do we really want to send a Week 17 game where nobody's playing for playoff spots? Really, we're just playing for pride. Do we want to send a game like that into overtime? Do we really want to do that? I don't know. Maybe it was actually a good call to not send the game. You either win it or you lose it, and you just be done with the game and go home. Maybe that's what they were thinking. But I don't know. Given how the team was playing, if I was Sean Payton, I don't know that I could have called that. It was a ballsy move. I'll tell you that right now. Ballsy move. For them to go for that 2-point conversion. Of course, they didn't get it, and so Tampa Bay Buccaneers wound up winning 17-16. It was a rather low-scoring game. For everything that the Panthers have had going on this season, which has not been a lot of good stuff, they still know how to score. They're not quite as high scoring as the Saints. Did I say Sean Payton a few minutes ago? I meant Ron Rivera. Not Sean Payton. Sorry. Ron Rivera. Now, talking about the Saints, the Panthers are not as a high scoring team as the Saints are. By the way, let's talk about that just real quick. The Atlanta Falcons Saints game, speaking of high scoring game, they were up 38-19 at one point, and the Saints came back to within 32. Now, they still lost, but they came back in with 32. So that's all I'm going to say about that. However, my point of that being, the Saints have typically been a high-scoring team this year. Panthers have been a team that has known how to score. Our Tampa Bay Buccaneers have struggled in that area, and we struggled with that tonight. We struggle getting into the red zone. We struggle capitalizing on red zone. We struggle capitalizing on turnovers, and today was more of the same. I think if you look at that, I think we showed a lot of good stuff in this game. Let me talk about the defense first. I have a note here talking about the game today. Outside of that opening drive, which the opening drive on defense, I think I want to read this to you. My opening drive was defense was doing nothing on this drive. The Panthers were marching unopposed. It looked like our defense was from a Christian high school. That's what I said. It looked like they were just from a local Christian high school. The Panthers were having their way. Went all the way down, scored a touchdown. It was bad. That opening drive on defense was bad. It was just not okay. However, after that, defense looked stout. This was the defense that we're going, hey, where were these guys the last couple of games? This was a commanding, dominating, shut them down kind of a defense. Let's talk about Brent Grimes. I got to go to Brent Grimes real quick. Brent Grimes is a guy who's been getting a little bit of flack for me this year. He's been as I say, he's been on my shit list a little bit this year. Mostly because he was you guys remember that over the course of this whole season, Grimes was slipping, he was sliding, he couldn't keep traction. Right? He couldn't stay on his feet. And we heard all about, Brent Grimes coming in. Oh, he gets all these interceptions, he gets all these pass breakups, and we just weren't seeing it in the beginning part of the year. And I said, until he gets an interception, he's on my shit list. And I think like the next game he came out and he got that interception. So that was awesome. Then I said, if he slips one more time, he's going back on the shit list, and he slipped. And then he came off of it again. And I said this in this game after he got that interception. Brent Grimes is permanently off my shit list, at least till the end of the season. No, but he was. Brent Grimes was great today. I think Brent Grimes very well could have won our MVP award for defense today. I think it's very, very possible. So Brent Grimes, loved him. Let's talk about Keith Tandy. All right, I was talking a little bit with some of the guys in the pre-show before this show began, talking about Keith Tandy. Keith Tandy has proved himself. He has proved that he needs another contract, at least for next year, at least for one more year. He went out, he stole Chris Conte's job. Or maybe you want to say Chris Conte handed him his job. But Keith Tandy, man, wow. Let's just looking through my notes here. I see Tandy's on a stop. I see Tandy's all over a guy. I see Tandy saves a touchdown pass. I see, what else do we have in here? Did Tandy get an interception today? I think he did. Yep. Tandy, Cam airs it out down the field. Tandy gets an interception. This time the officials allowed it to be called a catch. Yeah, that's because the reason I wrote that in, guys, the NFL has to they've got to get in and work on their rules of what's defined as a catch and what's not defined as a catch, especially after some of those things we saw today. I mean, was it Russell Shepard? Russell Shepard went in, came down, his hand was under the ball. Right, hand was under the ball, and because it wasn't tight up against his body, they said he didn't have control of it, and so it was an incomplete catch. I think it was at least twice today we saw interceptions that got ruled incomplete passes for one reason or another, and I think one of those was probably legit when you look back at the replay. However, we've really got to work on, and I say we, as if any of us are actually going to do it. Hey, listen, NFL officials, if you're on the committee up there, I'm talking to you. Please work on this, okay? Let's call a catch a catch, All right, let's really define what that means. There was another one where like the receiver has to catch the ball, secure it, tuck it, and then transition himself to a runner for it to be a full complete catch. And we lost one. I think it was with Mike Evans earlier this year in another game. They said nope, it's not because he didn't turn around. He had the ball in his hands. Coming down, I mean, my word, he caught the dang ball. Okay, caught the dang ball. Anyway, let's get off that. Rindak says, let's get some full-time refs out there next year. Yeah, here's the thing. I heard those refs make something like $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in a season for doing that. That could be their full-time job. That's not a bad salary. I mean, it's not the world's best, but it's not the bad salary at all. I know a lot of people who'd love $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year to go out and officiate 16 games plus whatever they do, in between the weeks. Because I know that they're out at like different practices doing things. I know that they come out during camps and things like that and help teams out. Plus they've got to go through their trainings and all that kind of stuff. So could be really good. So, hey, if you're wanting to call in, the number is 864-729-BUCS. That's 864-729-2827. You guys call in. You pick what we talk about. Talking about the game right now, though. You guys can change the topic on me if you want, but that's all right. Until then, we'll talk about the game. Defense was good. This was a good game by the defense. For the most part, shut down the Panthers. For the most part, shut them down. As far as offense goes, it's a different story. Offense, Jacquizz Rodgers, thought he had a pretty good game. I don't know what his final numbers were. If somebody in the chat room happens to know what Jacquizz Rodgers' final numbers were, he's got to have been close. Had to have been close to 100 yards. Maybe not quite, but he had to have been close. Jacquizz Rodgers, I saw Ira Kaufman tweeted out during the game, said, Bucs fans everywhere can't help but wonder if Jacquizz would have been the running back all season, what would have happened. And you guys have been listening to this show. I have been a Doug Martin apologist. I have been a Doug Martin defender. And I think that that's still a fair question. They're saying mid-80s, about 85 yards for Jacquizz today. Thank you. Thank you guys in the chat room. Let's see who's calling in, and we'll pick back up this discussion in just a few minutes. Thanks for calling the PewterCast InstantCast. Who are we talking to tonight?
It's John again.
Hey, John, what's going on, buddy?
Man, nothing like just getting off work and time flying by.
Well, hey, time's going to fly by when the Bucs win. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. It was an amazing win today.
Yeah, it was.
It just kind of sucks. Because, anyway, like I said, it kind of sucks because we still had hope to make the playoffs. I know it was a really, really long shot, but everything was going our way until Dallas screwed up because of Fumble and Sanchez doing one of his Jameis lookalike, trying to scramble out the pocket and losing 30-something yards. I hate to admit this, but they should have played Romo. They would have had a better chance of beating Philly. Yeah. And then again, I know we would have got eliminated with the Washington game, but almost everything else fell in place, and we would have made the playoffs.
It would have been nice.
It just kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's hard for me to fault any other team given the fact that two teams actually had to tie. If we didn't have to have the tie in there, I might have been a little more amped up, a little more mad about that. But, given the fact that we had to have a tie, yeah.
And we can thank the Cleveland Browns for that.
Yeah. Because
had the Browns not beaten the Chargers, we would be in the playoffs. Have needed Washington to lose, which happened. So that also makes me kind of a little pissed off. But like I said a couple weeks ago, we're 9-7. We're above 500. We still have a lot to be happy for.
Yeah. We absolutely
next year, we're going to keep 10 to 13 wins next year. This trend is going to keep continuing. So next year we'll end up winning the division, getting the first round bye, and possibly home field if it keeps up.
Yeah, they certainly look like they're on a trajectory up and to the right.
So I can't be saying I'm too disappointed, but hey, it was a better way to start out the 2017 season by winning on New Year's Day.
Yeah, and here's the thing, John. John, tell me, how much do you believe in the idea that momentum from this season, momentum from this win, can carry through the off season and really get us started next year on the right foot? How much do you believe that can have sort of a momentum type impact on next season?
I'd say about 75 to 85%, maybe. I mean, it's not going to be everything, but there's always going to be, what if we lost and they got that 2 points? Then it's going to be like, oh, we're going to be in for another long ass off season, and 8-8, we would have still been 500. We would have still qualified for a winning record. It's going to be like, oh shit, we could have had that one.
Yeah.
And then now that we think about it, that Oakland and that Seattle, or not Seattle, but Los Angeles game's really biting our asses now, especially with that New Orleans and Dallas. We were going to lose regardless of Dallas, but that Saints game, that Falcons game, it's like those 4 games were finished, 97? That would have been a 13-win season right there.
Right.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah. Certainly, if you go back and you look at our schedule, you look at where we played, we left a lot of points and we left some wins on the field. We absolutely did. There were games that the better team did not win when we left the stadium, and it certainly could have changed where we would be right now. However, as I remind, and a lot of people are saying this, and I'll be somebody who reminds people, when you go back to the beginning of the season, this is exactly where a lot of fans thought we would be. They thought we'd be somewhere between 7-9 and 9-7 is really where people, I think, realistically thought we were going to be.
Honestly, my predictions was actually 11 to 12 wins, and I actually got all of the games right to the winning streak we had, because all that looks easily, and it's just like, that's realistically a winning streak we could put together.
Yeah.
I mean, I even thought, speaking of that, here's another shitty point. We found out we finished in second place with 9-7 record. Washington finishes in third place, so we play the Giants, then at home next year, we play at Arizona again.
Huh.
So if they play us like they did last year, that's going to be an automatic loss. But we can't let that happen again. But yeah. Let me see. We play the NFC or the AFC Northeast. So we play the Patriots, the Dolphins, Bills, and Jets. The division. Then we play the Packers, Vikings, Lions, Bears. Choose final. We're going to be playing Arizona and San Francisco. Or not San Francisco, but the Giants and the Cards for the other 2 games. Right. But yeah, this schedule, looking at it, if we play like we did when we were winning, this could easily be a 13-win, 12-win season next year. I mean, because if you really look at it, the only games that we physically should lose, as of right now, just by looking at it, and some of these teams, England. I really don't think there's no way in hell we're going to be able to beat Tom Brady. So, I mean, the last couple of times we've got blown out, no matter how good we were playing.
Uh-huh.
Even when we were fully healthy, we still lost to New England. That's going to be a guaranteed loss. I mean, unless they really step up, but
yeah, I don't know that I believe in guaranteed losses. I'm looking at the schedule for next year, and you're absolutely right. We're back at Arizona next year. We do have the Patriots at home, so that should help us with that. We've got the Lions. I mean, just even looking at the playoff teams that we're facing next year, people who are in playoffs this year.
Like that. Since now Washington has lost to the Giants, we will be playing 7 teams out of our 16 games, including Atlanta, that will be in playoffs this year.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Yeah, it's going to be a...
Yeah. You know what, though? That's the way I want it. That's the way I want the Bucs to be able to go out, play the good teams, and win. And I think they can do it.
It's just like Jameis was saying, earlier, I can't remember what game it was or anything like that, but I do remember he's saying the teams that we're supposed to beat, we lose to, and very badly. The teams we're supposed to hold on, I got it backwards. The teams we're supposed to win, we fuck up and lose. The teams we're supposed to get blown out by is the games that we actually win.
Right.
So
that certainly seems like it's been. It certainly seems like that's been the story. Yeah, that definitely seems like that's been the story, and I think we can definitely we can overcome that. We can overcome the idea that the teams that we're supposed to lose to, we win. The teams that we're supposed to win against, we lose to. I think that's just all something that can get cleaned up here over the next little bit, and we'll be able to to make that happen. And that all is going to depend on, it's the C word that I keep talking about. It's the culture. Now I truly believe any given team can beat any other team on any given Sunday, and that includes the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the New England Patriots. Though I certainly understand what you mean, because that looks like that's going to be a very tough game. The Patriots have set a culture. They've set a dynasty for the last 15 years. However, every dynasty has to have its fall. And what if that fall started in Raymond James Stadium next year, 2017? Think about it.
Yeah.
Just think about it.
Yeah. Okay. I actually have the list here. We have the division games, of course. We have Chicago, Detroit, New England, both New York teams, and the Saints at home. We go to Arizona, Atlanta, Buffalo, Carolina, at Green Bay, at Minnesota, at New Orleans, and at Miami.
Right.
So the away games, the only one I would really see is like Arizona, because they gave us a fit, even though we were probably thinking we'd lose that one because of how stacked up they were supposed to be. But the Green Bay game, we've got to pray to God that is not a December game.
Right.
That's going to be almost impossible to do, because look at how Aaron Rodgers got them back after they had a shitty record. Sure. And they were, and they're in the playoffs. So we got to indoor stadium, so that's fine. But it just, looking at this record, we got the potential if we play like we did on those winning streaks. We play to that potential. We got this locked up next year. Yeah,
I agree with you on that. That I believe that next year there's no reason why we shouldn't see the playoffs unless something just really weird happens. Because we are on a trajectory up and to the right, and that is the biggest thing that I think that any Bucs fan can take away from this season. Now I know that there are some who are going to sit back and go, "Oh, we didn't make the playoffs, and if you're okay with the 9-7 record, then you're settling for mediocrity." And I say, "Shh, that's bullshit. No, stop.
No, that's bullshit.
Look at where our team has been.
We have something."
Exactly. Look at where we've been over the last bunch of years, and this is a huge step forward. No one would have thought going into week 8, coming out of the midpoint of the season, that we would come out of the season with a winning record. No one would have thought.
We were at 3-5.
Exactly.
Thought the season was over.
Exactly.
And then we came back like last year. Everybody thought it was over last year, and we came back to an inch within the playoffs.
Right.
And then we lost 4 in a row.
Right.
But I will say that we only split the last 4 games this year, so it's a hell of a lot better of an improvement. At least we got something to look forward to next year.
Exactly.
All right, but as far as the off-season stuff goes, they, like you were saying earlier, Keith Tandy, Chris Conte, McDougal, some of these guys, we give them a lot of shit, saying that we need a better secondary. After the way that they played this year, and after everything started turning around and Mike Smith got everybody on board, I think they all deserve to have a new contract, at least another 1-2 year contract, because I think 2 out of the 3 is going to be free agents. I can't remember right, but they deserve that. Started. Brian Anger just got a 5-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
And
well earned.
Hunter, keep these players on a roll. So re-sign the players that we have to. Yeah, we're going to lose some players. And we got to pray that we do not lose Smitty this week.
Mm-hmm.
But we got, that's the one thing I'm dreading come tomorrow or Tuesday, is saying that he's got an interview or he's going to sign somewhere else. That's going to be devastating. I mean, not really, but Jason Light and Dirk has proven this system will work. Yeah. We're getting the players we need to make this system work. Yeah. And I honestly believe after this performance, even though we missed the playoff, we got a 9-win record. I guarantee you that the owners are not going to be so Donald Trumpish and hit the fire button. They're not going to. He's going to. He pretty with this 9-win season was going over 500. He pretty much secured his job.
Yeah.
At least for a 3 to 5 year contract.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we've been saying about Cutter is that Cutter needs the full length of his contract, and I'm not gonna go off it. So yeah, that's all good stuff. We certainly have a lot to look forward to here over the next couple of days when they open up free agency signings and stuff again. As we look to that. So Jonathan, I'm gonna go ahead and clear this phone line, open it up for somebody else to call in. But man, I really appreciate you calling in and giving us your thoughts on everything going on, man.
If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, it's at BucsTheBall37. I got a new page going on Facebook and on Twitter because I'm starting a Midwest group for the Bucs out here so we can tailgate like what the Buck and Buckaholics. So on Twitter, you can go at Pewter Crew, KREWE, and it's the same thing on Facebook. You can find it at Midwest Pewter Crew.
There you go. All right. Well, yeah, Bucs fans, if you find yourselves out in the Midwest, anywhere in that area, make sure you jump into that. It's really great to be with Bucs fans and kind of have Bucs fans unite, you know? So I appreciate you doing out there, John. Getting people together. You know, there's nothing like, especially when you don't live in the Tampa area and being a Bucs fan can get a little bit lonely. There's nothing like being able to get together with a bunch of your other fellow Bucs fans, whether it's for a tailgate or a watch party or anything. And especially, man, out there in the Midwest, because, you know, let's pull up those people again. Who are we going to go see in the Midwest next year? Anyone? The Packers? If you kind of count the Vikings, maybe you kind of count the Saints a little bit. There's a couple games you guys could all go to together. So, yeah, make sure you guys go check that out. But, yeah, certainly, guys, ending the season on a 9-7 record, hell of a lot better than 6-10, hell of a lot better than a 2-14. Yeah, hey, listen, 9-7, not settling for mediocrity. That is not settling for mediocrity. That's just knowing where we are as a team. We made strides. And you know what Tampa Bay is doing right now is they're finally, you know, they talk about the progression that you have to go through. You have to have hope that you can win. And then you actually have to believe that you can win. And then you've got to know that you can win. Right? And this year we took steps down that path. You know, I said way back at the beginning when we're talking about culture, and yeah, guys, I'm going to keep talking about it. I've been talking about the culture of this team. What it means, it's part of why I wanted to start this show was so we could help document the change in culture of what's going on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because I personally love leadership. I love these kinds of things outside of football, and I love the Buccaneers. So they all get mashed up together, which is awesome for me. And this is part of the changing culture. This is part of the change in era. And next year we come back, we have a third-year quarterback in Jameis Winston. And you guys all know the big change, the big jump that happened between Mike Evans in year 2, between Mike Evans in year 3. Can you imagine what's only going to happen for Jameis Winston coming back in his third year? How is he going to mature yet again? How is he going to grow up? How is he going to turn into a leader? How are the people around him going to continue to mature? And we've got consistency. Cutter is certainly staying with the team. Todd Monken, is he going to stay? I've not heard his name being thrown around for any of the 6 open head coaching positions around the league. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers only have to give their permission if it's a lateral move. Right? Like anyone can go interview as long as they're making not even a promotion, just as long as they're going to be interviewing for a head coach. So Todd Monken back as an offensive coordinator. We've got Dirk Cutter in, who I think has grown leaps and bounds as a head coach. I think he like any rookie has made some It seems like he's made some off decisions. It also seems like he's made some risky decisions, some that have panned out and some that have not panned out. And I loved some of the decisions he made today. You know, in today's game, they were talking about it all over TV. I don't know for anyone who might actually have been at the game, if you guys were noticing. But at the end of the first half, we did not take a timeout when we needed to take a timeout. Or when, quote unquote, we needed to take a timeout. Cutter let the clock run. And the guys on TV were going, what the heck are we doing? And we'll talk about this in just a minute. You're on the InstantCast Show. Here, who are we talking to?
Hey, Mr. Brent, it's Chef Aaron.
Chef Aaron, buddy, I missed you, man. For like 2 weeks, I've missed you, brother. What's going on, man?
Oh, just holidays and family stuff. It's been hard to, phone in and start talking with you.
Brother, it's been hard just to do a show on my side of it, so I fully understand. Chef Aaron, what's on your mind tonight, brother?
Well, obviously, I believe that anyways, a successful season, 9-7 is a hell of a lot better than 8-8. This defense looks like it's pretty much solidifying that it is right now the strength of the team. I mean, the offense, I hate to say it, I think they took a step back this season because, obviously we had so many injuries on the offensive side and no running game whatsoever. We only have one legitimate wide receiver threat in Mike Evans, and the offensive line, I don't know what happened to them, but they were in shambles at the end. It was almost pathetic to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard for me to talk bad about an offensive line just because I played that position, but yeah, the offensive line. I agree.
Between the offensive line and the running back position and all that stuff, obviously there's a lot of Twitter debates going on with between those two positions and all that stuff. So, yeah. But I read the comments and all that stuff, and I'll agree with them, I'll disagree with them, but yeah, I've just seen so much Twitter wars over those two positions that it's got to the point where it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. Well, let's have that conversation real quick, Chef. Let me get your opinion of it. Because if you listen to the Twitter wars and different media outlets out there talking about different things, there's this idea of we need to go out and get weapons for Winston, whether that's a running back, wide receiver, tight end, whatever, weapons for Winston. And then there's another one that says, no, we got to bulk up the offensive line. And then there's another one that says, no, we've been ignoring the defense for the last 3 years, and the defense is aging, albeit they did pretty okay this year. It's a patchwork defense with a lot of free agents. We've not really invested a lot in the younger side of that. So we got to draft defense. Now listen, here's the deal. In any draft, you're only going to get a handful of really good picks, so you can't draft everything, right? You can't go in and fill all your needs in the draft. So what do you think? Like, what should a priority be heading into free agency and then certainly the draft? Do we need to protect Winston? Do we need to give Winston some weapons? Or do we need to undergird an aging defense? What do you think?
Well, I definitely believe that Jameis absolutely needs more weapons. I mean, I would say the first round, I would probably look into wide receiver. I know a lot of people are now salivating for Dalvin Cook, and I understand and all that stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how long Dalvin Cook lasts in the first round. But I'm hearing a lot of tweets about Corey Davis and that the John Ross kid and all that stuff, and those two look like lethal weapons that could match up quite well against Mike Evans. I do believe that we should draft another running back, but maybe in the second round. I know some people will say that Doug Martin is the feature back and all that stuff, and I've had my criticisms about Doug Martin and all that stuff, and I've thought Jacquizz Rodgers performed better than him, but I almost think those two should just have like a competition, like in training camp, just to see what happens in that scenario. I mean, they're both good running backs. Obviously, Doug Martin didn't have the year that we all thought he would, and
right.
You know what? It happens, and nobody expected this Adderall drug and all that stuff suspension to come into place. So, but yeah, I definitely believe we should draft another running back, and I think that maybe Ali Marpet should transition to center. I mean, I love Joe Hawley and all that stuff. He's an amazing guy. He's a hell of a team player, but he just gets abused too often. He's become inconsistent, and he's getting abused too often. And I think putting Ali Marpet at center and then hopefully J.R. Sweezy, when he gets healthy, he can slip into that guard role, because obviously that's what we brought him to Tampa for, is to fill out the guard.
Sure.
And that's when Kevin Pamphilo got all upset over.
Right.
And on the defensive side, I would definitely say that we need to get some more help along the defensive line. I mean, we still are missing our 10-sack sacker for like 10, 12 years now. It's going on since Simeon Rice has led the team or gotten 10 sacks in a season. So that's definitely a concern. And I would definitely say probably get some more help on the secondary. I will say the Tandy man, he is legit.
Yeah. Yeah. He's all over the place.
I mean, I think he probably secured that spot.
Yeah, and Chef, that's one of those places, I have said for at least 13 weeks out of this year that I felt that safety was our number one position that we needed to target going into the draft, or at least free agency. That was the one position out of everything else on the team that I said we have such a hole at this position, and I don't feel that way anymore. I really don't. I feel like I could roll with Tandy and McDougald for another year. If Conti goes away, let's bring in another free agent. That's fine to kind of bolster that. But I could roll with Conti and Tandy, and let's shore up some of these. I feel like we could shore up some of these other positions and then worry about safety in another year or two, as far as the draft goes. But
those two look like they fit very well in that defensive scheme in that secondary. Now that they've figured out what they're supposed to do and all that stuff, they look like they fit that scheme very well.
Yeah. I think it could work. So those are all definitely needs. We'll certainly be talking about that in one of the main shows coming up. Got a pretty sweet guest, I think, coming in who's going to be able to help us distill all that down and know who should we be looking for. As far as your thing about Joe Hawley, though, I'm looking at him. Joe Hawley, according to what I'm looking at right here, I believe he's only 27 years old, which is really not that old. It's not that old, but my concern about Hawley, and you mentioned he's getting abused, he's getting thrown around, and you know what? You're absolutely right, he is. The tape will bear that out. Okay, let me just throw that in. The tape bears that out. He does get kind of thrown around. He's a little undersized. I love Joe Hawley. I love his beard a little bit more. A little bit jealous of it. Got to be honest. But honestly, Joe Hawley's been hurt a lot this year. When you look at all of our offensive linemen, at least the ones who actually play, no one has been hurt more often than Joe Hawley. Now, Joe Hawley has bounced back and come back in the game, come back in the game. So it makes you wonder how much of this throwing around is actually part of him playing hurt. And kudos to him for playing hurt. That takes a lot to actually say, no, it's time for me to get back in there. And I was worried about that in today's game.
The same thing with Noah Spence.
Yeah. Look at Noah Spence. I mean, my God, he's been playing with a torn labrum all year, and but the difference is, it seems like with Noah Spence playing with a torn labrum has actually gotten better, versus where Joe Hawley, he goes out, he comes, it's Joe Hawley has turned into. I love Joe Hawley on the field. Yeah, I love the attitude that he brings. Over in the chat room, they're saying Hawley gets hurt 4 times a game on average, and I'm pretty sure that's a joke, but I kind of believe that stat at the same time, because thank God Evan Smith has been in that we could call him up anytime, and I was worried today that I saw Evan Smith come in for Hawley at some point, and then the next thing I know, I saw Pamphil go down. And I was like, well, crap, what's going to happen now? Who's going to move around? Who's going to go where? And apparently Hawley was back in, and Smith slid over to fill in for that guard spot. And I don't know if Pamphil came back at all or not. I honestly wasn't paying attention to that particular part. But, I mean, Evan Smith has been I hated him as a starter, but I've really been loving him in the role he's been in this year. And,
he's doing good work, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it's enough for me. I cringe a little bit to think about putting him back in as a starter, but a lot of people in the chat room I've seen have been saying they want to see Allie move over to center as well. I think to me that, if Allie moves to center, let's just play the what if game. If Allie moves to center, let's say Sweezy comes back next year and he actually is playing well. He slides in at left guard, I think is the position that they had for him. So now our right guard spot's open. Maybe that goes to Pam Field, actually. And we keep Dot out there on right tackle. He just signed a big contract. Unless something happens, I don't think we're getting rid of him. I think Donovan Smith. I know a lot of people have been giving Donovan Smith a lot of crap, and to that point, I just go, listen, Donovan Smith's in his second year. I think he's still learning, and I think let's watch the growth that we saw. Again, I'll reference Mike Evans between year 2 and year 3. I'm excited for that group of rookies from last year, for the Donovan Smith, the Ali Marpettes, the Jameis Winstons, Quan Alexanders, for those guys to come back in for their third year. If the growth that Mike Evans exhibited between year 2 and year 3 is any indication of what we're going to see out of these guys, oh my word, these guys are going to be great next year. And I would love to see Donovan Smith take that kind of a step next year.
I will say that, I know he's old and all that stuff, but I think it's time for Goss or Trellis to retire. I mean, he looks like he doesn't have it anymore. I mean, he was good last year and all that stuff, but you could just tell that. Obviously he had the groin issue and all that stuff, but he just looks like he is just lost his step and all that stuff, and that's why we have Caleb Bennock. Obviously, he's a developmental talent.
Yeah,
and for people getting on Donovan Smith, this kid. If I'm correct, he was a right tackle in college, and then he transitioned to left tackle, which is the hardest. That's the blind spot of the quarterback, and that's the hardest tackle position, to adjust to. So it's like you're asking a kid to go from the right tackle to the left tackle. That's a huge transition. Nonetheless, he does pretty damn well, and obviously he's in his second year, so he'll have his struggles and all that stuff, but you can tell that he's not giving up. Like, he keeps working at it. It's a process. It takes time. I understand there's people out there that are impatient with it, but building a culture, building a team, it's a process. You need to stick with the process. And when people settle down and just let the process run itself or run its course, we will be fine in the end. And look what's happening right now. 2 years ago, we were 2-14. Last year, we were 6-10. This year, we were so damn close to being 10-6 to 11-5. 9-7 is pretty goddamn good compared to where we were half the season at 3-5.
Right.
Nobody expected us to come back in this. We were basically left for dead. And we came back and we shocked the world. And right now we basically, the Bucs put themselves on notice to show next year what they are truly capable of when everybody is healthy. And when Jameis Winston gets more weapons, and when this team itself gets more weapons, and when this coaching staff and all that stuff evolve after this year, they have all come together after 1 year, did a pretty damn good job, and now they have one more year. Now they have another year to progress and evolve after. I know Cutter's made mistakes and all that stuff with his play calling. People have called him too conservative. I'm one of those people. I won't deny it. But you know what? Dirk Cutter basically had no Winston to throw to. He was basically throwing to either journeyman receivers or undrafted receivers and all that stuff. Nothing against Adam Humphries and Cameron Braid. They are stud receivers. But they weren't drafted in the first round for a reason, because they have limitations. They're able to build on their limitations. So, but like I said, this season was a success, and it just makes me even more excited for the 2017 season to get here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I couldn't have put it better myself, Chef Aaron. So, hey, I'm going to go ahead and clear this phone line. But man, thank you so much for your phone call. That's fantastic stuff. And hey, listen, as we say, we've got we've got a hell of a lot to look forward to here through this offseason as we continue to build, as you've been saying, on the trajectory that we've been on. So, man, thanks so much for your phone call tonight, Chef.
No problem, Brent. And to all Buck Nation, go Bucs.
There you go. Go Bucs. Couldn't have said it better myself. You guys want to call in? Phone line's still open. 864-729 Bucs. That's 864-729-2827. You guys call in. Yeah, guys, lots of stuff we're talking about there. Talking about the idea that this season, even though we didn't get to the playoffs, it's still a success. This season has still been a good season, and that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. So, Chef, thanks so much for your phone call. Really, really appreciate it. Always love getting to talk to you. Let's hear. Where was I? I was talking about something just before he called in. I don't remember what it was. Cutter. It had something to do with Cutter. Cutter was doing well. We were talking about his play call in this game, where at halftime he didn't call it like he was letting the clock run out instead of giving his offense a chance to run down and make the touchdown. But it turns out, I think when you really look at it, what he was doing, and it was a call, right? Like that's a in the moment call. Do we let the clock run down, or do we try to use it and leave time on the clock for the other team to try to do something? And I think what he was just trying to do was just bleed the clock so that we could make whatever final play we were going to make and then just call it done as we go into the half. I really think that's what he was intending to do. And he actually did it pretty well because even though I think we missed that particular kick, 40 seconds were on the thing. Cam and company marched back into territory and they brought out their old field goal unit and missed it. Humphreys caught the ball and managed a 70-yard return, almost taking it to the house, which would have been awesome. Aguayo obviously missed his kick, setting that one up as well. So, but my whole point of that with Dirk Cutter, of what I was saying was, he's a rookie head coach. He's made some questionable calls. I think he's made some ballsy calls. I think he's made some not good calls, and I just think he's made some one where he's had to try them out. And so all of that to say, I think Cutter has done a fantastic job this year. I am excited to see him back. I'm excited to see him continue to build around him what's going on. I'm excited to see what happens. Todd Monken, we were talking about him, about whether or not Todd Monken was going to be able to stay in the stay around, and I think he will. We've not heard anybody talking about him with the 6 head coaching positions that are available. Had some people earlier in the chat room talking about Mike Smith, and John, our first caller tonight, talked about Mike Smith. And what do we do with Mike Smith? Guys, here's the thing. Here's the truth about Mike Smith that I believe, and I've heard. Mike Smith wants to be a head coach in the NFL again. Okay? That's the determining factor. If Mike Smith didn't want to be a head coach or he didn't care to be a head coach, then this would be a whole different conversation. But from all the reports that I've heard, Mike Smith wants to be a head coach in the NFL again. I think this was kind of his come back and reintroduce himself to the league kind of a year. And I think he's done enough. I think Mike Smith probably goes and gets a head coaching job. I don't know what job that would be. I really don't. I don't know if it would be Jacksonville, which is the one that he seems to be most tied to. It could be another one as well, I suppose. But if he goes, who steps in? That's been the big question. If Mike Smith goes, does our entire defense go through yet another scheme change? Well, the answer would seem to be that Jay Hayes would be the guy who steps up as the new defensive coordinator. He's a guy who's here. He's been around. He's been under Mike Smith. Now, Jay Hayes is a different coach from Mike Smith. I wouldn't expect everything to stay exactly the same. And you know what? That's okay. Mike Smith has been calling the plays. So it would now fall to Jay Hayes, presumably, if he would be the guy to get the job, to do that. I do believe, though, that Jay Hayes would probably be a very good defensive coordinator. I think Jay Hayes would provide the most stability should Mike Smith go. I think Jay Hayes, I heard somewhere, and I don't know where it was that I heard this. I've heard this a few times now, that when they brought in Mike Smith, that it was with the understanding that Mike Smith probably wasn't going to be here very long. That they thought that he would be back to head coaching, sooner rather than not. So when they went and they got Jay Hayes, and they stole him from the Bengals. Just remember, Jay Hayes was coaching with the Bengals. He was doing great with the Bengals. Why would he make a lateral move to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Because he didn't get a promotion. He just came in. He was their defensive line coach, came in to be our defensive line coach. And the answer was that he was promised that they kind of said to him, listen, Mike Smith's going to come in. He's going to be the defensive coordinator. He's only going to be here a year, maybe two, and you're the heir apparent. That's kind of that's the story. That's the narrative I've been hearing. I don't know if that's true. I've not been in those situations. I've not been in those circles with people, but that's what I hear. And it actually makes a whole lot of sense. It's the thing that makes the most sense to me about why Jay Hayes would have left the Bengals, because we don't know that, there's zero reports that he was unhappy with the Bengals. He was actually doing quite well. They're saying it in the chat room that Jay Hayes was promised the defensive coordinator job, and that would make sense to me. That would make sense to me. Of course, we'll probably see them go through the motions of having a defensive coordinator search. You would think that they would anyway, but hey, that's what's going on. But listen, what are the odds that Mike Smith goes? All right, as of right now, we haven't even hit Monday. All right, we might see a few more tomorrow, but as of right now, there are 6 expected head coaching positions available. Chip Kelly has already been fired as of the time of the show. Chip Kelly's been fired from San Francisco, so that head coaching position is open. They also let go their GM, and if they do it the way they should, they'll hire a GM first, and then the GM will hire the head coach, so that could actually take a little bit of time before that one is settled. San Diego, I don't know if they fired their GM or not, but they let their coach go as well. Out in Denver, Gary Kubiak is retiring, and he's not getting fired. He's just retiring, so he's quitting. We already know that in LA, the LA Rams, Jeff Fisher, he got fired earlier this year. We know that Gus Bradley in Jacksonville has already been fired, and we know that Rex Ryan up in Buffalo has already been fired. So that's 6 teams: San Francisco, San Diego, Denver, LA, Jacksonville, and Buffalo. I mean, California's taking it hard, isn't it? Aren't they? California is taking it hard with everybody except for Oakland. Maybe Oakland shouldn't leave California, or maybe they should get out while they still can. Who knows? But all of that said, that's a lot. And if we get 2 more, if we get 8, that's literally a quarter of the league. Holy cow, that's a lot of people. That is a lot of people. 25% of the league. Currently, right now, it's like 20. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So there should be head coaching jobs aplenty out there, and it would not surprise me to see Mike Smith get one, especially since he wants one. All right, and it seems like we have an heir apparent already, so I'm not as worried. But I'd really love to see him stay. All right, guys, I'm going to throw this out there. Last call for anyone who wants to call in. 864-729-BUCS. It's 864-729-2827. Anyone wants to call in through to the InstantCast Show, feel free to do that. And we'll start wrapping up. All right, let's take a look and see what are some things we've talked about, some things we haven't talked about. We've talked about Donovan Smith over at left tackle. I'll say this one last thing, and I'll let the Donovan Smith issue go for the offensive line, because I do agree there are some things that we need to change on the offensive line. There are some things that need to be bolstered at the offensive line. However, a lot of people say, "Oh, we have too much invested in Donovan Smith, and that he was a second-round draft pick last year, and we've got too much invested in him. We're not going to do." I don't think it has anything to do with how much we have invested in him. All right, guys, that's not the case. All right, it's not. What it really becomes a matter of is if we're going to make a change and get a new left tackle in replace Donovan Smith, then that is going to mean that we don't get somebody else. We don't get somebody else where we actually have a need. And some could say a larger need. Whether it's wide receiver, running back, maybe a defensive position, maybe even a tight end. in order of priority of need. Okay, because let's remember who Donovan Smith is. He's a second-year player who is still developing. And I personally think Donovan Smith has done okay. I don't feel like he did as well in his second year as he did his first year. But I'd be really excited to see what can happen to him in a third year in the league. Maybe even his fourth year. I don't know. I'm just excited to see what could happen there. I think some things that happen. So that's all I'm going to say with Donovan Smith. I just don't think we make a big change there because I don't think we're going to give up something else. Not because of how much we have invested in Donovan Smith. It's just I think he has done enough to maintain his job and he's still growing as a player. That's what I think. We talked a little bit tonight about how do we draft? Do we do weapons for Winston? Do we protect Winston or do we go with defense in the draft? We talked about that a little bit tonight. Where we're going in free agency and draft now, guys, in future shows, not this one and not the one coming up for this week, but in future shows, we'll be talking certainly about the free agency. We'll be talking about the draft. And just so you guys know, I have a policy. I don't do mock drafts. I hate mock drafts. Mock drafts drive me up a freaking wall. Okay? They do. And you know why? Because you can do a mock draft all you want, but you never know how trades are going to work out. That's the big thing. You never know how trades are going to work out. Teams go up, teams go down, and it blows up the whole draft. Okay? So I just don't like to. I do, however, like keeping an eye on certain players. So that's going to be the question that I begin to ask over this offseason. It's not, who do you have the Bucs taken? It's just, who should the Bucs keep an eye on? You know, here are what are our areas of need? Who are the available players that could, potentially fill those spots? Who are the ones we want to keep an eye on? I had Noah Spence going. He was our second round draft pick last year. I had him going in the first round. I was shocked that he was still available. He's actually the one I thought we should have taken in the first round over Hargraves. I'm glad I was wrong because we got both, which is cool. Very, very cool. Just so you guys know, in case you haven't heard yet, we are picking number 19 in the draft. That is set. That will not be changing. We are picking 19th in the draft. The only way that changes is through a trade. Do we trade up, trade down? I don't know. We'll talk about that. All right, guys, I got one last topic that I want to talk about before we get out of here. We talked a lot about the game today. And you guys still want to call in, the phone line is still open, 864-729-BUCS. It's 864-729-BUCS. I have to talk about a topic that came up in this past week, a topic that this topic really kept throwing off my show because there was the news that came out at game time that Doug Martin was a healthy scratch last week. I thought, oh boy, well, we're going to be talking about that come this week. And I just knew that there was more to the story than just Jacquizz Rodgers was a better choice. Okay. And, and I'm watching Cutter's press conference trying to read between the lines and, Cutter's saying, listen, we thought Jacquizz gave us a better chance against this team. And maybe there was something in Quizz's skill set that matched up well against something specific to the Saints, but not necessarily overall. And, they can only have so many that are active, which that always kind of never really sat right. But, okay, I kind of get it. We usually only have 3 anyway. So, but we already went with 4 earlier in the year, so that's why that didn't make sense to me. And then, of course, you guys know at this point that it came out that Doug Martin has got busted for PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs. And one of the PEDs that he got busted for was Adderall. Which is legalized speed is actually what that is. It's a methamphetamine. It's legalized speed. Got busted for Adderall. I don't know if he had a prescription for it or not. I don't know. Was he mixing it with something else? But, it was something that was obviously bad enough that he's gone into rehab for. He's stepped away from the team to get help, to enter a treatment facility. Which, kudos to him. That takes a lot of guts and a lot of balls to be in a position as high profile as Doug Martin has been to say, I've got this issue and I'm going to go get help with it. It takes a lot of guts. It was apparently small enough that people around him didn't know. And so that comes out. Now, am I going to blast Martin for using PEDs? No, I'm not. Because personally, let me tell you what, I think the PED deal with the NFL is a little ridiculous. A little ridiculous. What was it? Quan Alexander last year got busted for a PED because it was something that was found in an energy drink. Now, is that fully the truth of what happened? I don't know. He never really specified what drink it was, and he probably couldn't for libel reasons or whatnot. But that's what he said. It was for something that was in a drink. Okay, well, crap. There's been a lot of PED suspensions this year, y'all. And that's a quarter of your season, a 4-game suspension for PEDs, really? Wow, that's a lot. That just seems to be like a lot. I'm not going to get all over him. And if it was just Adderall, well, okay, what was, I think the question just comes, well, what are you doing with it? Do you have a prescription? What's happening? And is Adderall really a performance-enhancing, drug? Because if you go with just the numbers, the yards per carry, then Doug Martin his performance was not being enhanced. Okay. If you just go based on that number. Now, I still go back and defend what I was saying. When you go back and you look at the tape, Doug Martin was averaging 5 yards a carry, right around 4.5 yards a carry, 4.75 yards a carry, when everybody else was doing their job. Okay, I mean, and the big knock that I had against Doug Martin was what we never saw was, for whatever reason, he never broke that second and third level tackles like we've seen in Doug Martin in the past, and hitting and breaking off those big yard runs. I had zero reasons why that wasn't happening. And people kept saying, well, look at Jacquizz. He's playing behind the same line. And we now have 2 games where we have a healthy Jacquizz Rodgers playing behind the same line pretty much that Doug Martin has been playing behind. And what do we see? Jacquizz broke off for bigger runs. Jacquizz actually did better. Okay, were the drugs an issue here? Is there something else going on in Martin's life? I don't know. I'll tell you this about Doug Martin. I wish him well. And should the Bucs trade Doug Martin? Maybe. PewterReport.com did a pretty good article of saying, hey, it's time to blow up that entire backfield and see what happens. I think you can make a case if you bring Doug Martin back, you bring Jacquizz back for sure. I think we have to bring Jacquizz back. He has certainly earned it. I would say that. Just as much as Tandy has earned the right to come back, I think Jacquizz Rodgers has earned the right to come back. I think we've got to give him a new contract, bring Jacquizz back, and maybe let him battle it out in camp. Is it worth bringing Doug Martin back? Maybe. Can we get something out of him if we trade him? Is anybody going to take him? Probably would. Who probably would take him would be the Patriots, because they tend to do crap like that. Maybe the Cowboys. Hate those guys. Guys, here's what I want to say about Doug Martin. Wish him well. I put this out on Twitter. You guys know I've been rolling my hashtag I'm with 19 all year long for Roberto Aguayo. I'm going hashtag I'm with 22. Which is not saying I think that we should bring him back. I'm just saying I'm in his corner and I wish him well. And I hope Doug Martin gets better. I hope Doug Martin gets better. I hope we don't release him. I don't want to say that. I'm a believer in change. I'm a believer in people making a change for the better. I would like to believe that Doug Martin goes out to this treatment facility, something amazing happens to him, something gets clicked in, he kicks whatever he's been battling, and he comes back and he has the best year ever, even after having to sit out the first 3 games. Even having to sit that out. That's what I'm hoping for Doug Martin. Is that the reality of what's going to happen? I don't know. We'll see when we get there. I think it can. Is it likely? Missing first 3 games is going to hurt his numbers quite a bit, but I think he can do it. I think he could come back. And I think he could have a better second half of his career than he did the first half of his career. That's what I think. That's what I'd like to see happen with Doug Martin. Hashtag I'm with 22. However, we all know that this is reality is what it is, right? And people talk about, the NFL is a business. Okay, listen, guys. If the truth is Doug Martin's going to come back and he's going to be mediocre, then I love Doug Martin. I hate to say it, but we probably have to move on from him. Probably have to move on, and I think Jacquizz is a great person there. However, as good as Jacquizz is, that now, they're saying in the chat room right now that it becomes the second biggest issue on our team, and they could be right. And if Dalvin Cook happens to be available come number 19 in the draft, or we move up and we go get him, I don't think I could blame Jason Light for going and drafting Dalvin Cook in the first round this year. The running back out of Florida State. Besides reuniting Dalvin Cook and Jameis Winston, that could be great. And honestly, if we were to go out and we were to get Dalvin Cook in the draft this year, I could see us letting Martin go, regardless of how good Martin comes back. I could see that happening. And I wouldn't blame anyone for it. That's just kind of how that works. So I wish Doug Martin well. I really do. I would love to see Doug Martin come back. I'd love to see him have an even better second half of his career than he did the first half of his career. And we don't know what's going to happen until everything shakes out. It just depends on what's going to happen come this particular draft and free agent signing. And one more thing, Coach Cutter. Coach Cutter handled this situation so well. They're saying in the chat room that the Bucs will save $7 million if we cut Doug Martin, and that's right, we can because we no longer have guaranteed money towards Doug Martin. That was voided with the PED suspension. Here's the thing: the Bucs have the highest cap room in the entire NFL, $67 million or something like that. The $7 million. Yeah, I mean, great. We could do something with it, but you know what? I think we're sitting okay. I'm not so much worried about the money. That part just doesn't bother me that much. All right, Coach Cutter. I think Coach Cutter handled it well. Coach Cutter took the brunt of it. He said it was a coach's decision. Now, we don't know what conversation happened between Doug and Coach Cutter saying, hey, you need to sit out this game. Because Doug Martin was not suspended last week. But they went ahead as a team and sat him. And I remember looking at Doug on the sidelines thinking, that's not a guy who's upset about this call. That's a guy who agrees with this call. I remember just seeing how he was acting on the sideline. And that's me reading into it. I understand that. Coach Cutter handled this so well. They're correcting me. They're saying, no, we're the third highest. Cleveland is number one in free agency cap money. Okay. I have a source. Let's see. I'm just looking. Let's see here. I don't know where it was. I was looking earlier today that it said that Tampa Bay has over $67 million and we were the biggest in the NFL. That might be wrong. That might have changed. So forgive me if I'm wrong. But either way, I don't care if we're number one or number three. We got a crap ton of room in free agency space. Crap ton of room. Kudos to Coach Cutter. The way he handled it, guys, is part of setting the culture. That's telling your team you're not gonna throw them under the bus. Is what that's telling your team. He took the bullet. And here's the thing, Cutter didn't come out and lie either, right? He said nothing that was contrary to the truth. It was fans and it was the media that spun inference into what he said to extrapolate what he was doing or what he was meaning or what he was thinking. The number of articles that I saw that said Bucs move on from Doug Martin. The Bucs have benched Doug Martin. The Bucs think that Quiz is better than Doug Martin. It was media and it was fans out in social media who were pushing inference into that. I think Coach handled it great, and kudos to Coach Cutter. So I just had to say my piece on that. I think that's going to get us. I'd like to say thank you to everybody who called in tonight. I want to say thanks to everybody who called in over the course of the season. Guys, this InstantCast developed into something that I did not expect to have happen. I did not expect this to turn into a call-in show, and this has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with you guys on Sunday nights, following the games, getting to catch up with you guys. So, hey, be on the lookout. We've got the main episode coming up later this season. I got a handful of guests, I think, that are going to make the show this week. So it should be a super fun show as we break down for one final time the game as we go on. We'll have a top 3 list. We'll have a conversation segment, and then we'll go off into the off-season. And I'm not quite sure what the off-season looks like yet, but we'll certainly get there. So, yeah, guys. Hey, once again, thank you guys so much. Be on the lookout. We'll probably do another call-in show here in the very near future. And until then, guys, go Bucs.